Here Dante and Beatrice enter Saturn, the heaven of mystics. Saturn himself is shown as an old man holding a sickle, a traditional but weird and ambiguous symbol. Saturn ruled over the Golden Age before he was dethroned and castrated with a sickle by his son Jupiter. The usual explanation for Saturn holding this gruesome attribute is that he represents the harvest plenty of the Golden Age. The ambiguity of the attribute suggests to my mind that Saturn is, in traditional depictions such as this, on one level a John Barleycorn figure. Though all of this is somewhat irrelevant to Dante's use of Saturn in the poem, Saturn the seventh planet was a standard figure in medieval art. As shown here, he makes a memorable appearance in Chaucer's Knight's Tale as Pale Saturnus the Cold. Behind Saturn we see angels rising and descending along Jacob's ladder, an adequate symbol of mystical ascent, here adequately rendered. The real focus of this brilliant illumination is the figure of burning Semele. Her placement parallel to Beatrice is a stunning interpretation of the poet's lines. Once again my eyes were fixed, as my spirit was fixated upon my lady. I had no other purpose. It was she I existed for. After each of our previous ascents, she'd given me a glad look, welcoming me to the next heavenly level. But here she offered me only this explanation. Had I smiled, you'd not have survived it. Think of Semele, daughter of Cadmus, the first king of Thebes, Semele, mother of Dionysus, god of wine, Semele, beloved of Zeus, the storm god, who wooed her in mortal form, smoothing her scruples by reassuring her he was indeed a deity. Her distrustful love required evidence. Slyly she asked a favor. King of the gods, he grandly granted whatsoever, terms unheard, swearing with irrevocable oath, it's yours. Delighted and doomed, she asked to know him as wholly as his wife Hera did when love joined their deities in a storm of passion. No more could she unwish than he unswear. Gently as he could, he showed himself a god. He chose his most muffled thunder and least frightening lightning. But even this exceeded all humanity could bear. Semele was cinders, scattered on her lover's unwilling winds. You'd have been Semele's simile, had I beamed on you here with unhidden happiness. My beauty, as you've seen, burns more glorious with every step I mount in the palace of eternity. If I showed myself with unadjusted glamour, it would have splintered your mortal being like a thunderstruck tree. This illustration actually refers back to Canto 20, where the great eagle contrasts two early good rulers of Sicily, Robert Guiscard and William II, with two bad ones, Charles II and Frederick of Aragon. The painter's object was to make sure the patron's coat of arms was worked in again, and thus it is on the shields of the two bad kings on the right. The primary interest of the image for us is its representation of the mountainous, volcanic landscape of Sicily. Here Dante encounters the soul of Peter Damian, who relates his personal history. In the northern part of Italy's peninsula, between its Adriatic and Tyrrhenian shores, a little west of your Florence, where the ridgy Apennines raise their rocks so high they look down on thunderclouds and hear storms rumbling under them. On the mountain range that's Italy's backbone, there's a hump thrust up among the massy crags not far from Gubbio, Mount Catria. On its eastern slope a hermitage is perched, Fonte Avellana, a place of prayer. There I served God with steady, true devotion, contented to eat bread and vegetables with olive oil as their only sauce. Seasons of heat and cold were one and easy for me, intent in meditation, all my thoughts on God. Against my will, people called me saint. The Pope made me his special envoy. I had to leave my dear mountain peak for the monastery of Santa Maria near Ravenna, where I could see to the curious business. It was there I changed my name to Peter the Sinner, so that no one, especially myself, would forget that humility's the one true distinction. Here in Canto 22, still in Saturn, the heaven of mystics, we meet Saint Benedict. The Illumination follows his autobiography, how he set out on the spiritual path, how he extirpated surviving pagan worship among the peasants, how he founded a monastery and wrote the rule which became the standard manual for cloistered life. We may take this opportunity to enjoy the Italian primitive landscape. The 2D hills and abstracted trees are surprisingly modern. Those of us who admire the mid-century Warner Brothers cartoon landscapes made by Philip Dugard and Maurice Noble under the direction of Chuck Jones will easily appreciate the abstracted vernacular countryside of the Italian primitives. Here Dante and Beatrice enter the heaven of the stars at the sign of Gemini, represented by Leda holding her twin children, Castor and Pollux. The circles around her represent the various heavens Dante has already ascended, while at right we have the spirits of the spheres, though they are given here, left to right, in the order of the days of the week, beginning with the moon for Monday, holding a crescent and having 3 faces to show her 3 aspects, waxing, full, and waning. Then comes Mars in armor, Mercury with wings on his sandals, Jupiter with a long scepter, Venus in a jeweled gown, and Saturn with his sickle. To the right we see the sun in his fiery chariot. The poem says, "But now, from the stars above the sun, I saw Diana's planet burning white, in direct light, furiously silver. I found I could look directly at the sun, so able had my eyes become. Undazzled, I discerned Mercury and Venus, who ride so close to him they're hidden by his glare. Not now to me. I saw the temperate planet Jupiter, midway both in heat and position between cold Saturn, his father, and his son hot Mars. Looking down from the final firmament, I understood at a glance the complicated orbits of the planets. The entire cosmos looked like a little model of itself. My eye took in at once all 7 planets, recognized their sizes, speeds, respective placement, all correct as in a textbook." Now in Canto 23 we have our first glimpse of heaven proper. Thousands of sparkling souls assembled below a great sun that lent them his luster, letting them echo his splendor. That sun, that living light, was Christ. Within his brilliant orb I could just make out the shape of his resurrected body, glorious, immortal, physical but transfigured, a material thing but radiantly perfect like the planets and the stars. The sun-like glory of the risen Lord was more than mortal eye could bear. Now Dante sees, from afar, Christ and Mary in the nimbus of the angels. Christ, in his character of Word incarnate, holds out the Old and New Testaments, and we see St. Peter holding the keys that open and close the gates of heaven beside Mary. The poem reads, "There's Mary, the rose in which the Word was made flesh. Those lilies are the apostles. Their trail of perfume shows the way to salvation. Ever quick to obey as she advised, I returned my eyes to the visionary fray, though unsure as new recruits ordered into battle. As I have seen a field of flowers more clearly when the sun has somewhat muffled his beams behind a scrim of clouds, diffusing his luminosity. Just so I now saw that host of shining souls, bright with the reflected light of Christ, more easily, for the lamp that lit them had been withdrawn. Jesus transfigured, that other sun, had retired upwards higher into heaven, sparing me his glare. I looked now to her, the glowing, mystical rose of the rosary, whose light showed brighter among the sparkling starry throng. My whole soul was absorbed in just saying her name, that name I call out morn and eve, Maria, Maria of all my Aves. The next two images are for Canto 24, where Dante is questioned by St. Peter regarding his faith. We are shown Dante meeting St. Peter with his keys, then the successful outcome of the interview, where Peter, in a circle of radiant faithful souls, is girding Dante with a white corded belt, reminiscent of the girdle worn over a priest's or a monk's cassock. It is here a sign that Dante has vindicated his right to be ranked among the faithful. To the right, we see a crowned angel bearing a cross, a traditional emblem of faith.